Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight Overture Gaming are looking to continue on with what has been many times they've tried to break their curse of losing on stream. So we'll see if that does conclude today, if the curse is over, or if it shall continue. On the other side of the field is Emergence, the collegiate mishmash of players who I'm very familiar with. My name is Sticula. I'm joined here with Mr. Tristan Corbeck Parker, courtesy of the Unified Premier League, as we walk through for some Rainbow Six here in week number 6.
Yeah, it's an exciting matchup, actually. These are two kind of, I think, quite strong teams. But you did mention Overture's little bit of I don't know if we can quite call it a curse. I don't know if we're into curse territory yet as far as sports curses go. But certainly, it's been a bit grim for them when they've gotten live on the screen here for us. So hopefully they will be able to avoid that today. But I do really like this Emergence team. I know you said you're familiar with a lot of the players, but I like watching them play. They're very, very entertaining. And I do like that, what is it you called it? A mishmash of collegiate players thrown together. Always provides a little bit of interest for us to watch here on a good Thursday. What is it? Thursday night, Thursday afternoon. It's still afternoon, I think, for me technically, but looking forward to this matchup. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, so this game is pretty big in terms of standing wise. If you're trying to get into the playoffs, which is only about maybe 8 or 9 days away at this point, 2 weeks left in the season, including this one, you gotta have to try to get your way over there. Inside of this group, we already have one team confirmed going forward to the next round, and that is Mystic. For Emergence, they sit at the number 5 position, just behind their opponents tonight in Overture Gaming. So a win here is pretty crucial. If they manage to take this one, it's still not completely out of the water yet. There would be some math we would have to do to decide, round differential, points, win percentage, all that stuff. And even further so, in the next week, you got a game against Mystic for Emergence, which looks like a pretty tough piece of scheduling.
Yeah.
So I would figure that Emergence are going to give it a pretty good try, and I did misspeak, actually. It's Emergence who have trouble winning games on stream. Overture Gaming
Uh,
are actually on a 2-game winning streak.
Oh, okay. We're just getting names turned around. That's all right. It happens sometimes out here. Emergence Overture, very, very similar construction. But yeah, it's a mid-table matchup, Stick, and I think that's the important thing to take away from this, right? Like, these are both very strong teams, and with that matchup with Mystic in the future here as well, this is an opportunity that needs to be seized, right? Even if we assume that Mystic, having already clinched a playoff spot, may be a little bit more hands-off than usual, still a very strong squad, and one that you can probably expect to have a pretty hard fight against. So you just want to put your best foot forward here and get moving. And I mean, unfortunately, the fact that we're in a best of one, or fortunately as it may be for viewers in terms of suspension tension, there's not a lot of room for error in these matchups. This is going to be a very close match between these two teams, a lot to fight for here on just one map.
Yeah, and it's always kind of hard to get over the hump in a best of one. You got to start off strong. But talking about that, let's get over to some of the playmakers that are going to kick off their form tonight and maybe get that ball rolling down the field. You should be very familiar with both of these two teams. We've seen them. We've talked about them to a decent level throughout the season. The one point of note is Overture Gaming have actually made a couple of notable changes recently. I mean, pretty much a whole roster swap. Some Guy and Vim, otherwise known as Vimposter, are the only two to have stayed and to have been hanging on to this roster. They've recently been actually joined by Naps and Sirius, and a special guest subbing in tonight is actually a former teammate of mine. That makes twice in the season that I've gotten to cast a former teammate. It's Real PK. This is going to be awesome. Like, I love casting my teammates, players that I've seen before, players that I've talked with. PK has got a really solid fundamental understanding of the game, so it's awesome to get him here on the broadcast.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's also interesting when teams do go through these changes, which I think we could say are relatively frequent, right down here in the relative protean chaos of sort of T3, T4 siege, what have you. It's always interesting to see how teams maneuver around that, right? Because you go from one group that you've been scrimming with, or you've been stratting with, you've been playing with, and then you kind of switch things around. You get a substitute in here as well. It does kind of unsteady the waters, right? It
Yeah.
rocks the boat a little bit. But I mean, most of these guys, they've been around the block. They know what's up, right? They can kind of snap back together and keep going. But you do always have to consider whether or not it's going to be a factor going into this.
Yeah, then on the other side, I mentioned that before, you've got the collegiate players. You've got Juan Deswan, otherwise known as Juan and Only, who will be coming in on the team. You've got his gaggle of friends that he's put together, notably coming out of kind of the T2 scene, or not even T2, more like T3, really. Warrior and Talon, who have played together for a long time. Talon has been with Emergence for a long while. That's true for Son of Finn as well, but most recently,
Yeah.
Son of Finn has actually been playing on the University of North Texas's roster, who has had a decent level of success in the collegiate ecosystem. Juan Deswan and Perplexed, of course, hailing from the University of Georgia. But with that being said, with the rosters now established, we've got another topic to hit on as well, Corbeck, and of course, it's the map bans, where we'll be headed for this best of one. And I have seen the future. I know where we're going, and it is a bit of a sorry tale. We'll be heading to Cafe Dostoevsky here in the final game for week number 6.
I just can't get away from it, mate. I tell you what, I just can't get away from Cafe Dostoevsky these days. The box from hell. Lots of bad things come in boxes when you think about it. What, Dracula? He came in a box, I guess, technically. Pandora's box. A lot of bad stuff in there. Things you don't want to open up. But I mean, be what it is, right? Cafe, we know it quite well. We know the generalized strategies for this. I had the opportunity of casting a match last week where I actually saw some rather different things run on Cafe to middling success, mostly because it was a lower level of play. I think the teams were more willing, perhaps, to go outside the norm. But there should be no surprises here, right? Your stereotypical takes, your vertical clearance, maybe the occasional horizontal push every once in a while, especially through Bakery. Other than that, though, I don't think these teams will be bringing anything that's going to make us all sit up and kind of go, "Oh my God, they've reinvented the wheel," or the box, as it may be in this case.
Yeah, we're looking for the basics here. We've got one team, Emergence, who actually spend a decent chunk of time scrimming, practicing probably about 3 or 4 times a week. Overture, I think they scrim, but obviously having a sub does throw in, a little bit of, hey, and I wasn't there last Friday. I didn't see what we did on Cafe. I don't really know what the prep was, but I can say, at least for PK's credit, that I have spent many a night midnight dreary, working up in the scrim session, teaching him all the basics about Cafe, and PK's quick study. He knows the strats. He can relay them out, get them to the field. So I don't have any, maybe thoughts in the back of my mind that this is going to be kind of a boring Cafe. PK is a fun player, and I expect to see that procure some reactions from us out in the server.
I'm sure it'll be entertaining in its own right, right? Occasionally you do get moments of brilliance on Cafe. I think in general, it has an advantage too for a sub. It's one of those maps where the setups are so kind of stable and well known on most of these defensive sites that a player can sub in quite easily and they will know what to do, right? Like on some lower level collegiate teams that I've worked with and subbed in for, I played Cafe. It's very straightforward, right? You just get a roll and you know where to go. Everybody knows where to go. So the bands are all pretty usually quite the same, which does help, I think, when it comes to conquering that particular issue. But you never know. There's always an opportunity for things to go a little bit pear shaped and for people to try something different, and there'll be action regardless. So don't go anywhere. It's still going to be a very intense match, regardless of where it's being held.
Yeah, and another thing while we wait to get the lobby set up, we have actually had a change coming in from the previous week up in the Raven group. This is the Rogue Conference for the Overture versus Emergence game. But up in Raven, Radiants have disbanded. Some of you might have seen that on Twitter.
Yeah.
That was Frozen and Hat's roster. They've been replaced by JJ and Co., who have come in, already have a win under their belt, and are in a similar position actually to where Emergence are right now. They're sitting at number 5. They've got close games. They've got victories, and they actually just beat Cosmic Wolf, which I think actually might put them into number 4. We don't have that quite updated on the standings yet, but an important game played out last week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it on stream. But man, am I glad to see that JJ managed to somehow shoehorn his way into the end of the season. That way we've got some better competition heading into the postseason. JJ always, it seems like he comes into a team every once in a while. We get him sometimes in Unified. I've seen him through the playoffs maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
Now that he's in, we've got an exciting scenario up there in Raven, which we'll be looking forward to. Of course, playoffs are still, again, kind of 2 weeks ahead, but they're going to be closing in fairly soon here, Tristan.
Yeah, it's not going to be long, really, is it? I mean, it's for these mid-table teams in particular. This is really do or die time, right? And you can say that in almost any sport when you start to get towards the close of the season. If you're going to make that last-minute push to secure yourself a spot and set yourself up for a solid playoff run, this is the time to do it. So I think we're seeing that play out in that upper tier as well. And it's always interesting to see teams do make that run for it. But it'll be interesting to see how this Cafe plays out as well as we go ahead and get started here in the band ban phase. Overture, of course, starting on the defense, maybe a slight advantage on Cafe. Sometimes it means something, sometimes it doesn't. It's a really relatively ambivalent map in that regard, Reese. But Thatcher getting banned right away, probably not going to be much to write home about here in these bans.
Yeah, I did have a chance to talk with Sirius, one of the members that's here on this Overture roster, and he said that some guy who, to my understanding, is the captain, made some kind of a slip up during the map bans. I'm not sure if that factors in at all. The first ban from Overture was Coastline, which I feel like it's hard to say if that's where that ban lies. Like, if that's like a crazy permaban, I feel like maybe teams don't have a permaban on Coastline maybe as much as other teams would have
Yeah.
in the past, just given, the position that the meta is in. But either way, we have what's in front of us, and it's Cafe Dostoevsky being picked by Emergence. I guess that's sort of the way that we describe it, and because of that, Overture
Sure.
have the side choice. They pick Defender, obviously. If you don't pick Defender first, there's a little bit of trolling going on, perhaps during the map veto session there for Cafe. As we finish up with the bans, nothing really worth diving, doing something about. I can't even talk today. You did have the Valkyrie, and I have had some Cafe Dostoevsky matches, notably in the collegiate scene. I actually caught which was a game between the University of North Texas that Son of Finn plays on versus the
Hmm.
University of Georgia, but it was their black roster, not the one that Wanda Swan and Perplexed had
Ah, okay.
previously played on. You were actually there for that. You were casting with me. We did sort of that like little
Yeah.
impromptu stream, and the one takeaway I had from that game is Son of Finn dropped like 21 kills.
Yeah, it was a big game. It was a really big game. He genuinely popped off on that matchup. That was very interesting to see. A much more relaxed environment in a lot of ways as well as the six picks start filtering in here for a kitchen service, kitchen cooking. A lot of six picking around at the moment, and it will be Sledge and Echo who make their way in to start here. I think Perplex showed a Blackbeard there. I'm not entirely sure what that was about, but give him a little the old razzle dazzle. Interesting to see Echo come in, but I think of all the sites on this map, this is the one where we do generally tend to see Echo played. I wouldn't say frequently, but relatively often, in the sense that he has some serious advantages here on this site. Obviously, the Kaid is still in contention here. They've opted not to go with that. Probably using mute jammers for most of their hard breach denial. It'll be interesting to see who kicks out basically on the roam here. I assume it's going to be Vim up on the top deck, and maybe Pierre's as well will go up there. On the other side, offense, I don't think there's anything too surprising here. Pretty standard setup. Looks like a stereotypical top-down take.
Yeah, so one final note. I promise I won't talk about the playoffs and the future and whatever, this and that, the whole entire stream. But this match is essentially win and you're in. For
Interesting.
Overture, I don't think there's any possibility that they can have their spot snaked through, and that's true for Emergence as well. Team Arcane, who are the only other realistic challenger, I think, that could come into this postseason late sort of picture. They've already lost or won their game. It was like a forfeit situation. GDK have a game against Emergence as well, which that sure is a little bit of a fun subject as well there to have to play against a team that you're competing with for that postseason position. But as far as I know, I think Overture just have to kind of chill out and sail through this game. I don't think that they can necessarily get booted out from playoffs at the moment. But I guess beyond that, I do agree with the sentiment around the Echo as far as that basement. It's helpful to have him. I have seen a couple of strategies where you'll sort of send one yokai drone upstairs. You search for players here or there. Vim is going to take an early confrontation. Jimmy Talon looking to see if he can maybe step down towards the stairs, where Vim has not quite yet left the area. PK now stepping up as well. We'll take one bullet from the ARX there out of Jimmy Talon, who now follows it up with another drone, quickly spots the Mozzie, and that'll finally be the signal for the Australian operator to step away from the landing of the stairs.
Yeah, Vim didn't have a lot of choices, really, just slowly getting pushed back down, but there's still multiple individuals up here. You saw Sirius, you saw PK, they're both on this level.
Wow.
PK with a beautiful kill there early on for the Warriors, a very clean wall bang. Unfortunately, taken down on the other side. Jimmy Talon there to get the trade, so keeping things relatively even. Oh, Sirius couldn't claim his kill. So close to getting Jimmy Talon down, but the Iana will remain. That means the Gemini and those frag grenades still in play here as Perplex gets to work on the floor, just opening things up.
Always have to worry about that vertical pressure when it comes through when your two roamers go down. Overture, I mean, they wasted a decent, respectable amount of time. With Jimmy Talon on such little HP as well, you always kind of have to worry about where's Vim with that C4. Even though we know he's inside coat check, Emergence should be worrying, probably taking the Iana away from the vertical pressure. Jimmy Talon just doesn't care. He's going to continue to sit up here on the vert, looking for a gunfight, seeing if he can pick a battle with a player below as they continue to sledge the floor, looking for this angle close at the Bond chassis, which is, I believe, now occupied by some guy. Tosses out a Toxic Babe, looking to just see if he can add a little bit of an extra padding against the Emergence members who only have a relatively slim amount of time to get prepared, finally realizing where the smoke is, but well, under the timing, the circumstances, this might be a troubling one to get done quickly. Control of the case for Sonafin going to be a big leverage factor here, but the Echo continues to wait on his drone. Sonafin begins to plant. Things go into red time. The Mozzie preparing for a C4. He hits it for the throw. The Habana blown sky high, and time is about to run out, though luckily, Wanda Swan with the buzzer beater are able to get back onto the case. As the Mozzie steps forward, he's taken out by the vertical, and that's the round. Wow.
You know, I think they genuinely might have misplayed that a little bit. I think if they had just sat on it and waited for the stun, they might have avoided, instead of the C4 over the top, because they lost the yokai, didn't they, when the C4 went in? I don't know if they spotted it or if it got blown up, one or the other. I don't know. It's interesting. That was an interesting end to that round. I mean, I appreciate what the defense was trying to do there. Sirius coming back in. It was a very well-placed C4, but when the numbers were down, I don't know. I do kind of wonder if perhaps Trickery would have been a little bit better than the more direct confrontational style that they went for right there. But regardless, it's in the past, isn't it? So we'll move on again, and kitchen service, kitchen cooking will be the side of choice. Wonder Swan swapping over to the Maverick this time, so abandoning the Nomad, and really they're not bringing, I would say, anything for flank pressure, which is an interesting choice on this map. Usually I think you want to have somebody who could fill that role, right, Reese? But they've chosen not to do it. I think they're counting again on their ability to be able to take on either quite directly these roamers, or to maybe just go for the straight horizontal push. Those are the two thought processes I have when I see this composition.
I feel like
You don't have
Maverick's
a hard
definitely...
breacher, though. Actually, oh no, you do have a Fauna. What am I saying? I got confused for a second there. My icon knowledge. I was like, wait. What are you doing? And then I see now.
Yeah, I feel like Cafe is hard to get away with not bringing a hard breacher, but the Maverick has become a little bit more prevalent recently. I've seen... It feels like for your Mav, it's most helpful when you're trying to go for a very limited take. Like, you don't really want to get full control of the top floor. I don't blame you for making that decision as well. You've got the Mozzie. He's going to be causing some ruckus, and Merchants have already set up in the garage, in the bakery. They're getting ready. The Surrey Turks will come out for Wanda Swan as he begins to cut the line, seeing if maybe they can get the sighting onto the player inside of Rice, and now the process of clearing what should be a mute jammer on the other side of that large bakery wall will succeed, and the ex-Kairos are soon to follow it up.
Yeah, this is almost the situation where you want that Kaid, right? Because it would be a little bit harder to take down the Claw, all things considered, but they will get bakery wall open, and this is very much that limited take you were talking about, right? This is not sweeping by any means as they go ahead and blow the wall. Jimmy Talon trying to engage on the second floor and is running into a bit of trouble here. PK making his life very difficult. Could quite easily get a tap kill right there. There's not a lot of health left for the sledge. Now rotating up to the top floor to get an angle. Sirius taking over that position. I love that quick kind of swap of spots right there to enable some different angles of fire. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite have the visual that he needs from the second floor, so they'll keep things a little bit tight. A slight engagement down here on the lower deck as well, and they just can't quite seem to solidify this. I think really what they were hoping was they could use that vertical pressure to open up Kitchen completely. Instead, they're running face first into a defender. Finally, Warrior will get some guy down. That's the signal maybe to go here and try and get the plant down. One on the point engaging. BKers getting one in as well as the gunfight continues here. BKers trying to set up on the top deck and find something.
Awfully risky to try to step to the vertical when you have, well, the issue playing out below, and Unfortunately, PK does not get to stay alive on that situation to further develop it. Deployable shield goes kaboom. Warrior somehow survives, playing on that pixel angle as Vim attempts to fight back, which will go unsuccessfully for him. Overture now down to just a single member, and even less when you consider the health pool. Finally, Sirius, well, his time in round number 2 goes by, and the Hibana closing in through the breach. Pixel of the head not spotted, but Warrior's pixel is, and Naps pulls the trigger. Now jumping on the Yokai will make it in time to stop the Hibana, who attempts it for a second go of things, and the Yokai causing some serious disorientation for the Hibana. Perplexed holding off the potential for the rotate back, and the timing here is just perfect from Naps, keeping this Hibana from continuing with the plant. Jumps up again, stops her for one final time as the Yokai Sonic Blast will run out, searching for the angle, spots something. It's not the Hibana though, it's garbage on the counter, but as the Hibana finally completes the plant animation, Naps will pull the trigger for a third kill. Warriors finally, the bleed out will end for Vim as it's a 1 versus 1. The Ash should theoretically have this 100-1 with that R4C, with that small hitbox. Full health as she steps around the corner. Naps is going to try for a bait play, and this might be the one that works it out as the breaching round comes. The detonation is here. Naps is going to try for the peak, but as he does this, he knows that his time is running oh so low with 14 seconds. I can't believe it. Korvac Naps has made it happen.
Great swing from Naps right there. I don't even think he necessarily knew what the target was. He just kind of started firing. Unfortunately, he glided his crosshair right across the head height. It was very well played on the defensive end from the Echo. You honestly could not ask, really, I think, for a better sort of anchor performance out of one of your teammates than what we saw right there. Great drone usage on the Yokai to keep the plant to stabilize. Great gun skill there to clean up on the backside. Exactly what you want out of a player who's in that position, quite genuinely. I mean, it was a very solid round for the attackers, but it was really well turned around there by some guy at the tail end.
Wow, I mean, what a close first 2 rounds on that kitchen objective, and just for the game in general.
Very tight.
Both of them coming down to sort of your generic buzzer beater situation. The plant is coming down, the defense are trying to throw everything at it that they can to try to even stop that in any sense. And also just, wow. Well, finally, as the kitchen objective is locked up by that wonderful effort in from Naps, they'll have to see the rotation through, and it'll go to the second floor as compared to maybe a more archetypical third bar and cocktail defense. As far as this one goes, I think Overture have got the right idea composition-wise, but I also do give some credit to Emergence in 2 forms. One, for having the gusto to go for a more direct through push from Bakery, but also knowing that in doing so, you leave yourself quite vulnerable to the top floor pressure. I think they were aware of that. They did 2 things to confront it. Number 1, the simpler of the 2, was they just won their fights against the vertical. And that's too bad, so sad for PK and the other player who joined him inside of Train. But it's also another element as well. Emergence did something I always tell amateur teams, which is open up that window from mining. PK goes for a spawn peek, and he's the one who wins out this time around as he shuts down the soft breach of Perplexed.
That's an unfortunate loss early on, too, especially what I would term to be kind of a high-impact role you need here for that soft destruction. PK trying to go for the hidden C4. That's going to work 100% if he gets it off right. Ooh, he hit more of himself than he did the sledge. Oh, no. And there's not going to waste time. I think I saw the follow-up coming in already. I'm pretty sure I saw somebody answer. It might not have been. No, they're playing at the window. Still a very good kill from Warrior, who's been on a very impressive bit of a kick right here, and that should open up red. And now the next line of defense comes this way. Wanda Swan playing off the window here, trying to maybe catch one of these defenders out of position as the rest of his team begins to push in. Jimmy Talon going straight through the wall there of the Humidor, just continuing their way forward. Still, you know, a defensive presence here. A lot of util being invested. Again, that's where you would almost want that. Ash, he does have to dig Sirius out of this this little nest that he's built for himself up here, Stick, and I don't think that's going to be quite the easiest task. The flash comes in. Sirius now blind as a bat, trying to live up there, and oh, he gets point-blank air jab. That's not the most traditional means of clearing someone, but I appreciate it as the frag grenade sails in and gets the kill.
I suppose the Nomad is good at clearing roamers in more way than just one. Sirius just gets bounced out A repeat even by Vim at the bottom of the stairs earns him one against the Nomad, who will have no more opportunities to shoot or air jabs at defenders and knock them around a little bit. Sledge assuming the vertical job as nobody is there from Perplexed and is breaching round. Warrior will open up with a headshot kill, as Emergence have got a decent number of things going for them. I like this play from some guy, though. Realizes 3 versus 2, I need to get away from this objective, which can ultimately become kind of a death trap with so much vertical opened up above, with the attackers concentrating on nearly every angle of fire, and Naps attempting a little bit of a trick play as well, as he's currently prone in the back of Dining, an area where you cannot get any vertical on. Jimmy Talon will attempt to finally eliminate this position. A nade rolls down, but in the meanwhile, the TCSG takes the head off of Warrior. Finally, someone is going to drop through Laundry, try to get the engine started. Pro bono here for Emergence. 20 seconds to go again. Another situation that'll run to the end of the clock. Son of Finn, no yokais to stop him from getting the plant down this time. Son of Finn did not have them in position as he himself steps out of the objective into a confrontation with the Habana. Hidden behind the counter, that's not as much cover, more so concealment. Son of Finn taken out for the count. The Echo will try to shoulder peek the corner. Now Jimmy Talon reveals his position, pulls the trigger too early. He's got a defender up above him, playing from the vertical. That's Naps, who can't find it. Will have to take the direct battle, one that Jimmy Talon, the Sledge, comes away with. Some guy needed to get on the plant right now, and he sure does, and he tries to take the fight with the Sledge, but with this timer wearing on, some guy finally realizes where the plant is. He doesn't stick it again. Another failed opportunity to perhaps get a ninja through on this one. The time is running awfully low, and though for a moment I thought maybe some guy had it, Talon will finish the job through the vertical.
I think it was good adaptability right there, to be honest, from Overture in the later stages of that defense, but it was better adaptability from Emergence to kind of figure out how they wanted to do that. I thought for a second there when Son of Finn went down that we might be in a bit of a bad spot, but a really good recovery from the Sledge players, backing up into Laundry, taking advantage of Naps being forced down on that rotate. I mean, this is one of the advantages of Cafe as an attacker, is you're very clear on the angles that the defenders can take when it comes to getting back to down from floor to floor, I guess is the best way to put it. So well done there indeed. And I mean, I admire at the end too the effort by some guy to win that one out, but unfortunately, whether it was the lack of the yokai there at the tail end, whatever it was, it did not work quite that well. So despite them falling back into pretty solid defensive position, a very impressive round from Emergence. Naps, by the way, nearly clocking one of his teammates through the wall right there. I think it got stopped by a bookcase, but still kind of scary. Okay, I've got a question for you, Stick, because I actually genuinely don't know the answer. I feel like I should know this, but in my defense, I think I only recently discovered. So the couches on Bank, you can shoot through them, right? Can you shoot through those couches too? Yeah, you can, right? Okay. Curious.
Yeah, just the
I didn't know that, to be fair, and then I was hiding behind a couch.
Friendly to bullets. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I learned
shoot
that
through...
lesson the hard way.
Did you know?
I sure did. Hiding every pulse behind a couch, being like, wait until I hit this C4, and then the dude just friggin' lit me up. That was quite funny. Anyway, good. Speaking of getting lit up right there, PK with another early kill into Jimmy Talon.
Talon is either really heavily involved in some of these rounds, or it just feels like he's out without a say in his own livelihood. Fortunate for him there. I love how PK goes from the last round. He's peeking that pillar window this time. He just goes down one floor, just descends below. He's like, oh, there's no way Emergence are gonna predict this one this time. Guess it helps to drone the start of the round when you know that PK is in the lobby and he's really off the leash, so to speak, being a substitute player. You don't have any expectation really placed on you, and that's where sometimes you thrive the best. PK might hop out on this player, honestly. If he hears the drone, which he does, here he goes for the jump out, and the Zofia gets popped. PK for 2 with the aggressive early round play. You just gotta love that demeanor. Okay, Wanda Swan! He's got a demeanor of his own, though. He walks into the objective. PK takes another one. This round is all over the place.
Yeah, this is filthy. This is a lot of action right up front. I mean, PK did amazing here in the early stages, but now a 3v2 situation definitely not as favorable. Wanda Swan in a very unpleasant position here, backs out just a little bit. At least he's got the soft ping there on the opponent above him, but I don't know what he can necessarily do. The flash flying up, but Vim's already relocated. That could very easily turn into a kill if they're not careful. Juan trying now to move up to the top floor, looking into the cocktail window, just seeing if they can pick somebody out. Won't find it. Son of Finn trying to hold that angle as well. A very awkward sort of vertical gunfight developing between these two teams. Just kind of waiting for someone to blink first here. Neither side wants to make the initial error. An air jab thrown out there as well as flash grenades continue to go sailing in. Vim can't quite find the angle that they want, then they do. Wanda Swan does blink first, enters into the map, and Vim gets a very easy kill there at a distance. Son of Finn rushing into the point almost at full sprint. Can't be doing that because waiting for you here is the Kaid.
You never know who might be lurking behind those bookshelves we already established. They are a little bit bullet resistant, and that's a great place to hide. Emergence, such a weird round for them. They just like, they see PK as just absolutely murdering people across every area of the map, and they're like, I'm Nomad, I'm just gonna walk in. I'm just gonna sort of step inside reading. And they find a kill, and they don't use that leverage to try to get a plant down or to do anything else. And I feel like maybe that's kind of where you could have turned it around, but you didn't. You weren't even touching the steering wheel at that point, and eventually, because the last two attackers, one was on Heaven, the other was in Pillar, they weren't together, they didn't have any sort of crossfires, any sort of plan to work together. I think you probably don't try to fight the Jaeger, you just go into the site. That doesn't happen, and the round is lost to give us a tie game between these two commodities in the playoffs race. We always love to have these games that determine who's going to the postseason and who is staying behind. Well, this one, to be on such a pace so far, this feels like just that perfect match. The one that's likely to go to overtime, where no team is getting completely shut out.
Yeah, it's definitely tight. I mean, I was just going to say that when you were talking about it. I mean, despite being kind of a weird round for Emergence, and largely, I think, because PK got those early kills, they still managed to keep this a very close match, right? And at the same thing, like, we're seeing great adaptation from both of these squads, and it really does seem to be sort of whoever is making the mistake first seems to be the one who loses, which is good, because it means that both these teams are playing quite well. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, by the way. I do think that they should have probably just held back right there, or not held back's not the right word. They should have committed everything that they have to the site when they had the opportunity, but it was not to be. And we're back at Kitchen right now. They're setting up for another sort of push here with Wanda Swan on the Maverick. Good drone spot, by the way. I don't think they noticed it at all behind the fan, but there is some unpleasantness waiting for them in there now, and they're well aware of it as PKers gets the first kill of the round again. And man, as long as PK keeps getting these early knocks, I just don't know, Reese. This is gonna be hard. This is putting him a man down pretty much every round.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of found out his rhythm. Some guy with a challenge, you wouldn't often expect the SMG to reach out and touch someone at that range, but it does. And it gets them another one to tag on with the earlier pick, the opener against Perplex as well. Sonafin will try to maybe bail things out as he had for a moment selected the exothermic, but what's to note here is that Wanda Swan was one of those opening bodies to drop, and they never got rid of the mute chamber. It seems they will remove it through some other means. I'm not sure if that was them maybe just skirting around it or somebody else making it happen. Either way, the exothermic detonation goes through, and the wall is now open, so they will respond with another kill. You get the smoke. Is that a good enough response to trade out now the fact that you've lost your half or more of your soft breaching contingent, your set of grenades between Talon and Wanda Swan, and you have to attack this in a very uncomfortable position with defenders who are hungry to take their third round win?
I would say that some guy more than did his fair share in that last fight. That was very well done. Beautiful kill from PK, who just continues to be an absolute menace here on the Jaeger. Just waited, set that one up almost perfectly. Couldn't have done it any better. Had the ability to see through walls, honestly. Good kill from Son of Finn as well, but it's Vim on the top deck with the SMG-11 to shut it down. They had no idea that he was here. A very good trade back the other direction. Poor Son of Finn. I think he thought he was clear there, at least for a moment, but it was not to be. A very, very solid round from Overture right there.
Yeah, I don't think I would have expected two defenders to have rotated up to play the vertical as well. That definitely seems like maybe a move for Overture, just like, hey, let's do it. Let's go for it. but it gives them their third, and it puts them ahead of Emergence as we step into the final round. I definitely agree with your view of things. If PK just continues to run roughshod over Emergence and they don't get him dealt with, you're better off with not going for these very simple takes, these very, one-dimensional linear pushes, because Peekers is just like, oh, you've got a player out on the window, I'm just going to peek that. I'm just going to do this and do that because I know what your push is. I've read you. And so I respond with my own move.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I think he's being quite adept, right, at the predictive reaction to what's being shown here from Emergence, and he's like you said, he's reading it really well to just be in the right place at the right time and to go ahead and secure very valuable kills. I mean, you think back to I believe it was Warrior who was out kind of on the second floor balcony there, popped the drone. I mean, it's perfect positioning. It's exactly where you wanted your rover to be at that exact moment. You could have timed it any better, and he read it like a book. So, I mean, he's having a very solid matchup right here. And I think genuinely, I said it last round, and I'll stay by it. I think it's a lot to be credited for these Overture rounds that they've won have just been these casualties that they've been forcing on Emergence so early on in the round. I mean, when you lose two players, when you even lose one player, depending on the player who it is, right, at the beginning of a round, it can entirely change the tone and tenor of your attack. And I'd say that it's successfully done that. That being said, I mean, I think he does have to be a little bit careful with the spawn peaks now going forward. I think if Emergence are wise at all, and I know that they are, as Warrior clears that jammer right there, they'll be looking for that in the future, and I'd be very surprised if he managed to sneak another one in.
Can't quite find it as of yet. Son of Finn steps forward and realizes, yeah, jammer is still in the corner, the other one inside the humidor. Those are default placements for that piece of utility. There we go. Lifeline will get rid of it. The Skyrus will begin to fire away as the wall gets open, but Warrior takes a heavy heave of damage from the Wamai. You never know when that MP5K will just sort of step up and start to take what it's deserved. Time begins to further travel on. Flex has got the position established inside of Cigar for the meanwhile, but the fact that they haven't yet cleared this shield at Pixel is starting to give me the heebie-jeebies. The C4 sent up above, but the Ash, with good game sense, is already backed off, knowing that if you stand in that position, you're shaking hands with danger.
Shaky hands with danger. I feel like that's the title of like a stuntman's autobiography, a biopic perhaps for like Evil Knievel. PK here swinging around on Volcon. I mean, they've done a beautiful job just wasting time, and another first kill there for PK. He won't get long to savor it though, because he does get brought down by Warrior on the other side, which must have been absolutely satisfying there for Warrior. But Naps quickly securing a kill here as well. A little murder squad down there on the second floor, just causing some serious problems. Jimmy Talon's going for that long bomb frag. I mean, he hit some guy. Unfortunately, he can't quite confirm the kill still. Credit where credit is due. Quite an arm there on the sledge as Perplex now taking their sweet time, continuing to push forward here. But speaking of time, they are running out of it here, Stick. Almost just about 40 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, you always need to worry about that. The time, it dwindles away when you're not looking at what Perplex is doing. So he bounces up and down and up and down. The grenade will sail through the interior of bar stock, but it wasn't cooked long enough, and the defender, Naps, is able to react before things get a little bit too dire. And it seems like Emergence have kind of ran out of options. Their hard breach died as a result of that opening pick effort from PK, and they just haven't been able to respond ever since then. Naps will materialize another kill. Wanda Spawn, though, as he tries to sail in, he gets a pickup of his own. Perplexed in the 1 versus 2, spots the gun barrel, but not able to yet complete the kill as the first half will close. That marks 5 out of 6 rounds where Overture Gaming had the opening pick, and it all came from PK.
Yep, PK been the dominant force. I mean, we talked about it the last round as well. Here we going into split. You get a look at the scoreboard, and probably shouldn't surprise anyone that PK are sitting at the top there with 9 kills to his name. Nap's not far behind, though, with 8 in the tank. And unfortunately, neither Warrior nor Jimmy Talon has quite been able to match that. Emergence now switching over to the defensive side, and this is it, right? Like, this is the best time to strike back, set the tone right away here. Round 7, come out and get a W and put your yourself in good stead for the rest of your defensive rounds. I don't think it was necessarily the worst attacking half that Emergence could have had. I mean, obviously, just numerically, it's not. But I think that overall, those rounds were relatively close most of the time, and I think that Emergence could take great heart with that. And I do wonder if, when they have that kind of natural advantage that defenders tend to have here, that will really stand them in good stead for winning this one out. It's interesting that WonderSwan came out on the castle here. I was just thinking about this actually, Reese, because the sledge was picked, right? I think that was Sirius never 6-picked into that. I mean, that's just the hard counter right to castle, and even no matter how nice a castle barricade setup you have on this map, it's going to be very easy for Sirius to basically render all of that utility absolutely moot here, even with the addition of those 4 barricades to the mix, as Jimmy Talon there just performs a little anti-smoking campaign and the round gets started.
Yeah, so this is a pretty common strategy to see nowadays.
Yeah.
The one thing I would wonder about it as well is, do you have an ADS that's inside of Cigar? It might be a little too costly to deploy one, because what you're trying to do here, right, is you're trying to waste as much of the range soft destruction as you can before the LF becomes vulnerable. And Overture have only brought the Zofia as far as getting some of that soft destruction on target. But I suppose you could say, as a counter to that, PK does have the Gon 6 as well. There's frag grenades to think about from PK and from Sirius. But you just want to make this as cumbersome as possible to allow Jimmy Talon to put his head directly towards that doorway. And when you have this FO12, it's really the perfect weapon to set up in one of these positions where you know attackers are going to have to file through a doorway, an opening, a threshold to try to come against you. And as you see, they continue to drone, they continue to struggle because they need to identify what is protecting Jimmy Talon before they can get this done. Perplexed on the hop out. He deals a heavy blow to Vim. In the meanwhile, a kill comes out of PK on a Talon. Son of Finn able to trade that back immediately, but that looks like control of the cigar shop for all the utility, for all the castle barricades and ADS has fallen to the Overture attack.
It's interesting, actually. That's I've seen that particular jump out a couple of times, and it usually gets the kill, but I also feel like it always ends the same way, which is that the individual who makes the jump out is never able to escape back through that door, because you do have to pull those boards down. It just never seems to work. Warrior here falling back over to Pixel, and this is one of my personal gripes, is using Volcon in this position. I know that they don't have a lot of choice, but it does make life really difficult here for whoever's holding up behind it. WonderSwan securing a good kill, though. The castle continuing to stay alive, and a lot of the castle barricades still in play, actually, and providing a lot of coverage over there towards Piano. So that's something to take note of. Sirius here getting hit for a second, kind of in an bit of a discombobulated state there, trying to figure out which direction to go, but can't quite find the engage that he needs.
Yeah, again, this feels like sort of round number 4, where we had those last 2 attackers kind of didn't know what they wanted to accomplish. Suddenly, a few vector shots spray ahead of that new balcony position. In the meanwhile, Sirius is able to pick off one, but the real test will be, do they check behind the tables? Ooh, a glimpse from some guy spots out Warrior. The defense are going to try this move. The Habana gets off the plant, and she beats Son of Finn. How do you lose that gunfight?
Latency? Sorry, I was a little far away from my mic because I had leaned back. I was puzzled. Latency? I genuinely, I don't know. That was a mutual kill. Hibana got the shot off a second faster. I mean, it was a good read from some guy to come off the bomb that quick as soon as he heard movement. Man, that was crazy. That's a very strange end to a round right there, Reese. I don't think I've seen a lot of them
I've
end
had
that
a lot
way.
of those.
I genuinely do not even know how the game determines damage in that situation to determine who wins that.
Well,
That's
the one
like some
thing
weird
about
code
that
stuff.
is Overture had another body up, right? They still had that player that was over by Cigar Shop.
Oh,
so,
you're right. Yeah, I totally forgot they were running in a 2. They were running in a 2-for scenario. Oh,
so
yeah,
that's how that's
that was still that was a very strange ending to that. Couldn't he have just shot him through the? No, I guess he couldn't have. I don't know. That was a weird one. That was funky.
I wouldn't have advised him to try to shoot through that as well. I think leaping over
Nah.
probably would have been the better decision, right? Because we saw
Yeah.
earlier, we were talking about that inside the reading room, right, where the Cade is shotgunning open the wall, and it seems like he should have shot a defender that was reinforcing off pillar. But the problem with those bookshelves, they have like this weird layer system that makes no sense. You got to shoot him a million times to get him to break, and probably would have wasted your whole magazine before you'd even got any damage against that player, which would definitely have let you down. Probably would have been even less likely to get the DBNO as we saw for the conclusion of that quick 1-versus-1 inside cocktail. But that gives Overture a pretty pivotal round. They win the first on their attack, despite maybe not exactly having the best look at things. A capable effort from Juan Deswan, who had a pretty noted slow start to the game. He was able to take down one inside of Hut, I believe, onto that long angle that you often see attackers try to negotiate. He was able to win there, but victories across the rest of the board didn't look great for Overture, really.
Yeah, I don't think it was a super convincing attack round. I mean, I think down to the way it ended right there, it wasn't super convincing. But you know what they say, a W is a W. So no matter how you want to cut it, PK here swinging in a very aggressive take of the top floor, perhaps to be expected. Not a lot of resistance here waiting for them. In fact, it does kind of feel like Overture, or I should say Emergence, has completely sacrificed any sort of attempted attack on the top floor. Warrior waiting on the second, I believe, looking at the staircase, and yeah, they're not really challenging this vertically. They're really giving up a lot of space. All 5 players on Emergence are on the low ground. That's a very interesting defensive choice, and it's actually surprisingly wasted a significant amount of time for there being absolutely no presence.
You hate to see that, fellas. That's why you gotta have cut-off drones. Be able to know if there's defenders up above. Sirius, if he had looked downward, he might have spotted that defender who was just below. Warrior has got the lead kill, and it's against your Zofia. At least your hard breach will stay alive. That's my takeaway from the circumstance. But as you mentioned, the time delay has not been real friendly here to Overture, and you see that they kind of react off of this realization. Only 60 seconds left. Now Juan has got a C4 up above. Warrior trying to play for that walk-in. Look at how many flashbangs continue to sail over. The Gon 6 will claim the deployable, but Warrior is still just hunting down players. He impacts himself, and some guy will shoot his head right off the top of that bakery table. As he steps into the bakery, they have an open rotate hole. That won't matter as Perplexed has well staffed the angle with the 416, leaving it up to PK, who has been a miracle worker, but a 1-versus-4 clutch with 20 seconds to make it happen. That's just not possible. And Juan Deswan, a monster 2 rounds getting into this second half.
The power of the shotgun and palm of your hand right there off the tail end of that round. Just a pretty of a poor performance from Overture right there. I mean, I think we saw their real meat of that didn't start until about 1 minute 20 seconds left on the round, and for there being absolutely zero contest on second and third floor, it's unfortunate that it took them so long, I think, to realize just how clear they were. And then by the time that they started setting things up, there just was a real sense of pressure on that Overture side, and I think that led to a couple of costly decisions right there. It also, I think, emboldened Emergence a little bit, specifically thinking of Warrior there playing around Bakery, was very aggressive on the Wamai, and I think felt that they could be that aggressive because of the time frame. They knew that all they needed to do was just to continue to waste moments, right? It just take as long as you can in that situation. You're basically playing like a late round roamer almost. We go now to the second floor. It looks like reading room is the choice du jour here, and we'll see how much they invest in the top on this one. I mean, usually teams will extend significantly onto the top deck, but I don't. Yeah, they're gonna do it. I thought for a second they might be considering playing a little bit closer to home again, which would certainly be interesting, but no, it looks like they're gonna start putting bodies in position to defend that third floor. A good long wall of reinforcements right there, and even a shield on Pixel. Interesting defensive choices.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of this one just yet. With the FMG9, also a rare appearance from your smoke,
Yep.
but I have seen it kind of creep up a little bit more in popularity as things get further on. I wonder what a 2.0 would feel like on that little SMG. Is that playing with fire
really
a little
question. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be viable. I mean, to be fair, it's not like a lot of smoke players probably don't take it because it's a bad gun. It's more that, you know, you want the shotgun for redistribution purposes. Let's put it that way. But interesting, the setup stick, because most teams won't extend out to the pixel. Like, a lot of teams will not extend that far in. And I think they're trying to figure this out on the side of Overture right now, because it is a little bit different, and kind of determine exactly how they want to go about this. By the way, it's a filthy angle there from Vim. I don't think he's going to get any success off of it, but still good to know. And I mean, this is the value of Pulse in this particular situation. You can see being illustrated, just a constant stream of very accurate intel there for the rest of the team.
I feel like we did see a pixel hold on a reading extension right about the time that Goyo had came out, but it hasn't really seen much popularity since then. And Overture, with 2 rounds consecutively where they do look a little slow, this round you have obstacles you need to deal with, which is, of course, that pixel player who takes a few shots towards some guy as he escapes from that doorway, and now it's cleared, but the question becomes, Overture, was that quick enough? I don't think it certainly was. You have 1 minute and 20. You still have defenders playing from the second floor. Most notably will be Juan Deswan tucked in close to the bathroom with that shotgun. Overture really want to try to use some X-Kairos to force him out of that. It looks like they get him just with a drone. Juan Deswan feels that pressure is coming. He'll double back, knowing that with 60 seconds left, the attackers still just coming down from being up on the rooftop for the Nomad, who has been pretty passive so far. I mean, this is going to be a tough one. Going to try to put a couple grenades to the objective, but there's nobody really in breeding to suffer from that.
Very pedantic pacing. It's very slow. Pedestrian, actually, probably the better word for it. Just taking their time here. And it's costing them bigly. I mean, 35 seconds left on the clock, and it does not look like Overture is in any place to really go for the plant. That's going to mean that all of this now in this 5v5 is going to be very rushed and very violent. Warrior getting an early kill here onto Sirius. Juan Deswan tucked in down here as well in the perfect position to swing out and get a kill. Vim answering back almost immediately, and you can feel the pressure being applied here just in how fast they're having to move. Son of Finn stacked up, waiting for the opportunity, forced to run around. Reading will get brought down by Naps. 5 seconds left on the clock. Some guy comes roaring in there and slams the plant down. And if they can deny that, I think they're pretty much golden. And then they do. Jimmy Talon with a beautiful double kill at the tail end of the round to secure. But honestly, Overture Gaming basically dug the grave. All he had to do was throw the bodies in it.
Jeez, if you're the player who drops that hatch inside a launcher, you really have to win that gunfight. Your planter is counting on you. The time had already eclipsed triple zeros. At that point, there was no more road left. And Emergence, realizing, you know, what this game means, they're starting to give it a little bit more of, which is very relevant here, the old college try, right, for Emergence, who are trying to get things going when they really don't want to. And there is, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, this curse for Emergence. Whenever they play on stream, they've lost. You know, when it goes back to some of the games that they've played, their match versus 2 Relax in week number 5, some of their even earlier games right at the start of the season, such as their match versus Mystic. I don't know if that's necessarily the curse at work. We know the Mystic are just a really good team. But point being, they have just had some tough matches on their schedule when they get on the broadcast, and this looks like maybe times are a-changing, and Emergence are fighting to get from 5th into 4th.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a good position for the comeback, right? This is where you're gonna do it. I genuinely think this is largely self-inflicted, though, on the side of Overture. I mean, you mentioned it in their last round; they just go slow. I was really, really slow on that second floor attack, and I don't necessarily know why it quite ran as slow as it did. I'm sure you have maybe picked up on something here or there, but putting themselves in these situations where they have to perform spectacular kind of executes in a really short and dangerous amount of time is putting I think an undue amount of difficulty into these maps. and it's costing. Perplex now moving in through trains, looking for an early opening kill, perhaps to demonstrate a bit of a PK magic right there, as Naps actually looking for the same thing. But they will find no joy on either of their attempts. Overture comfortably set up here to begin their attack down through red.
So, with this setup in mind, we saw that it did kind of give Overture some trouble last time they went about it, but they were able to persevere in the end. Jimmy Talon is just sort of playing this how you need to. You have to worry about, remember what happened last time. The Zofia tried to rappel down, and she got jumped out on from a player inside dining. As Vim gets on his drone, you had better hope that does not come again. And they've actually sent an attacker to hold the angle. This is a great move. Naps doesn't need to be in the building doing anything setup-wise. Have him down here is going to be helpful, and eventually he can just rappel up the building. The Jaeger will not again test this decision as the time continues to run further down. Jimmy Talon realizing that his chances to stay alive in this position are slim. Quarterback, he's going to try to sit prone in this corner and see if Overture maybe don't check it.
I don't think they have. Or Vim would be shooting in that general direction right now. I think they might not be aware that he's there. I don't know how long he can maintain that illusion. And there it is. Some guy saw it, clocked it. Jimmy Talon will get brought down. Valiant effort trying to come out of the humidor like that and get a kill, but just unfortunate that some guy was being responsible with a drone. And this is looking increasingly more difficult here for Emergence. They're getting backed up towards one side of the map. Their most key defensive aspects haven't been challenged, and then you go and you have something like that happen. And that's almost inexplicable, I think, in these circumstances, as Vim takes a little bit of chip damage here. Now it's a 2v3, and how fast it's changed.
Wanda Swan is trying to play from that Volcan as he rattles away shots. They will try to burn this in the dire moments of round number 10. Son of Finn taking some bullets, but he's going to drop off the edge of pillar and come up from the white stairs. This is your moment here for Overture. They need to get rid of this Surya-gated drone. Will do it. Svim starts to step forward. Check out this angle in the back of Barstore. It won't even matter as of yet as Wanda Swan lets it rip onto Vim, and Perplex puts it down. Emergence will tie the game.
Wow, that's a change. That was a very good illustration of how rounds can flip so quickly. Because honestly, about I would say a minute before the end right there, 45 seconds before the end, I thought that Overture Gaming was quite comfortably in charge of that round. They just had to, continue with their push and the way it was going, maybe completely, if they could possibly do it, bypass the defenses that had been set over towards Pixel, and just go ahead and get the plant down. And then one Team TK even things up, and all of a sudden you're in a very, very difficult position that was almost impossible to battle back through. And I think at the tail end there, what we saw was almost Overture Gaming kind of, for lack of a better word, giving up. They just kind of ran in through that doorway into the teeth of the enemy gunfire and hope that they can make a play. And I mean, that's definitely the common bottom denominator strat, right, of a team that's in a desperate strait. What a strange round that was. That was a second. I would say that was the strangest round we've seen, but I don't think it quite qualifies for that yet, Reeves. But it's definitely up there as we get going here down on Kitchen again. And I mean, Emergence, they have to be relatively happy with how this is going. I think that they got a little bit of a freebie there on that last round, and they now know that they're in striking distance to at least take this to match point. And probably wouldn't even be worrying about overtime if they're in their position. And they'll go ahead and establish a relatively standard defense down here on the bottom floor.
It's a legit little drone spot for Jimmy Talon there, just inside of the
I like
machine.
that one.
I didn't even know there was like some kind of machine up there before. I hadn't even ever looked up there to check. Who would? It does draw me back to the time where we had the yokai in round number 2, where it just sort of came out from below that table or wherever it was to stop the plant, and eventually the Echo in that situation, I want to say that was some guy was able to summon up the clutch. For Overture, they're going to go top down. We know what this looks like. It has to be quick. There is no room to move slowly here. And seeing that they're dropping drones down through the hatch, I think it's just an inefficiency of their system. It's great to be thorough, and it'll probably show as Wanda Swan gets drone out and he quickly jumps over the banister. and he's taken out by Naps. That is great teamwork. So perhaps I was a little wrong to say that active droning wasn't the way to go, but with a purchase there, Wanda Swan down, I only have to feel that's going to help you out even further more. We've seen Wanda Swan be lethal with sort of those mid-round anti-vertical C4s that he's got.
Yeah, that was a really, really well done roam clear. I agree with you. I thought that they may be wasting a bit of time there as well, but they did such a good job of finishing that it's obviously not the case.
Oof.
Jimmy Talon here getting spotted out by the drone, wasn't able to secure the kill on it, so he won't be able to hide up in there. I mean, still a minute and 20 seconds now coming in, and Overture not in a dominant position, but certainly with the advantage. Warrior now trying to challenge up the staircase. Ooh, saw a little bit of someone right there. I think it was Sirius who peaked just a tiny bit. Can't quite confirm the kill on it, so Warrior will fall back immediately and reestablish the defense. Now they'll get to work on the vertical clear here, just opening up these floors, which is what you would expect a team to do in this position. Less than a minute left now, though, and it still feels a little slow here, but again, slowly but surely, Overture is establishing what they need to. It's just, are they going to be able to do it fast enough here, especially as the smoke comes into play as well?
Ooh.
Oh, good kill from Naps, though.
That's really great. Jimmy Talon, he tries to take a fight with PK. This could be it for Emergence. If they have to take it to overtime, it's going to look a little dire. Warrior is the last one remaining. Surely there's no way that Overture can bungle this now. Look at all the attackers through the freezer wall. PK swishes one through the net, and he comes away with 3 kills to finally end what had been a losing streak, frankly, from Overture after a pretty impressive first half and some close rounds here or there. Finally, Overture have got it in the tank, but one more round still left to decide before regulation is over.
That was basically as good a round you could ever have when you're in a situation where you really need a win. I mean, to come out and pull out the flawless right there. And I think that the thing that stood out to me about that round was the coordination in rooting out those defenders was impeccable. Especially on the 2 SAS boys. I mean, we saw Wanda Swan getting murked up there on the top floor in a very brutal fashion, very calculated. And then a very similar kill on the low ground as well to get the smoke out of Christmas. You rotate somebody around. I think it was Naps who secured that kill as well. He's waiting by the kitchen window. You force the smoke out of position, then you collect a kill from what I would argue is one of the hardest angles to play or least likely angles to see played on all of Cafe, coming in through that kitchen window. You just don't see people use it, or I should say restaurant window. You just don't see people play it very often. But it was really, really well done. I'm actually genuinely impressed. It makes me wonder, if I'm being completely honest, Nick, where that's been for the last 11 rounds of this game. Because if Overture Gaming had come out and looked that clinical from round 1, I don't think we'd be sitting at 6-5 right now.
No, I think there was a little bit of throwing perhaps in the second half of that game. Some weird slow attacks and some issues across the board. Not at all to discount the efforts of Emergence, who have hung on well, despite, you know, everything. I think Overture didn't give them as tough of an opponent to showcase, though, and to test them, really. You can see that Overture realized it's match point for them, and Overture have to be careful how desperate perhaps EMG would get in such a circumstance, monitoring all such runouts. Got to be careful as well about that hatch. Doesn't look like, though, anyone from Emergence is over to try the Game Day Nitro, but we've seen this exact strategy before. Emergence have been recycling pages out of the strat book. Overture, I'm expecting speed, and I'm also expecting Sirius to have a big play this round. Keep an eye out on him for something crazy.
Yeah, he's definitely one to watch. He's been very you know, he's waiting for his good opportunity. Obviously, PK has been the big impact player on the side of Overture here. PK gonna consider using the Gone 6 there to just day out that castle barricade. It's interesting to see the castle barricade generally causing as much consternation right there off that skylight as it is, and a good kill early on. That's Naps taken down. who is the other kind of big playmaker, especially off the back of that last round. So seeing a gunner get taken off the board early, probably giving a little bit of confidence here to Emergence. It's another very slow round, and this is so tempting for Perplexed. He's gonna, oh no, he can't get it off. He had so many targets, but a great read from PK to get swing in there and get that kill. That just stings.
Again, this is brutally slow for Overture by the Cigar side, despite the fact that, you know, PK is just able to summon up something. He'll try to make another play, but as he's sitting out in the open, Warrior will quickly swing to check that angle and finds himself in a Yana. Overture needs somebody to do something here. They cannot afford to play this one more passively. Some guy has got to kill against Warrior, but you're still wondering, what is WandaSwan going to do sitting inside this bathroom? There is very little time to drone him. Overture have got a drone. There's a mute jammer, though, on the other side of Pixel, so they're not able to figure this one out. I think the Zofia is aware of it, though. She'll hop through, but WandaSwan beats her to the punch. Pulls the SMG-11. There's only 30 seconds left, and he's already swinging, trying to come back through the flank. You've got Son of Finn stepping up right as well. There is so few options at this point. Some guy and Sirius are just going to have to make some kind of crazy biblical play. A sight hit at this moment might honestly be your best option given the circumstances. The Habana will drop down, tries to fight one through the hatch, and Sirius, so he's left in the 1 versus 3, but Jimmy Talon beats him through. Emergence will punch us into overtime as this game has still got more road left to run.
Very solid defense for Emergence. Very well played. I do think a couple of maybe questionable decisions, specifically thinking of the Sophia sort of doing the here's Johnny treatment right there with the bathroom wall and just getting shotgun right in the face. But a good cleanup there by Jimmy Talon as well down on the smoke. The anchor play from both these teams tonight has actually just been really impressive across the board. It's interesting. I think after PK got that kill onto Perplexed, there almost felt like a moment there where it wasn't necessarily a collective sort of sigh. It was more just like it felt like Overture was empowered for about all of 5 seconds before PK probably came around the corner and promptly got gunned down. And as soon as they lost PK there, it seemed to really take some of the wind out of the sails that Overture had on what was otherwise looking to be a relatively aggressive sort of attack pattern. They fell back into that very pedestrian pacing that they've used pretty much all night. But here we are again, going into the second floor site. Emergence will start on the defense here. We'll see if they can pull that off again. I mean, honestly, there was also an opportunity there where that round could have been buried. If Perplexed had been able to get off a solid nitro cell right before they got murked by PK down there on the second floor, I mean, that could have buried this entire attack right at the start. But it does seem like Overture is having a little bit of an awkward time dealing with this third floor kind of long extension coming out of Emergence.
I mean, I think it's just generally been kind of an awkward attack in general for them. You look at the objectives that they've won, I think it was bar and kitchen or something like that. Like they really have not had great successes in terms of site rotation. Cafe, do you expect that to a certain degree? Yeah, I mean, both sides got their 4 defenses that you generally expect, but that was not, you know, cafe, round economics, yada, yada, yada. That was just some issues that the offense faced, to be quite frankly. And for that last round, I think that pulse play was a little maybe perplexed, not knowing what he would have been doing there. You couldn't see for the roof of mining. That just doesn't work like that. It's software, only inside of Cigar and kind of the Christmas area. You see the Z-ping there. That's how you see 4 players that are inside of Cigar Lens. You have to throw the nitro up through the floor in piano, and then it sort of cascades over into the shop area.
Well, Warrior getting an early kill here on this round. Vim is down. So they have lost their Sophia early on. That entry pressure getting removed. And again, this long extension causing some problems. PK trying to harvest off of that second floor positioning again, but will not find the easy kill onto Perplexed. Warrior now with just a little bit of a peek. He's trying to see if he can get a long angle down. And again, a very slow round here from Overture, just ticking forward a little. bump in the door there. You don't want to see that too often if you can avoid it. And Perplex just continues to, well, be alive basically, which means that he's a constant threat in this situation. The same could be said of Wanda Swan, who is forced to fall back. A flashbang comes sailing in. Wanda Swan's still alive though. They have not managed to dig that mute out. And we are under a minute left here, and Intel's still coming in. The defensive setup is relatively in place, and 5 members of the defense are still alive. Wanda Swan gets out of the train just in time. Warrior gets one more, and then Wanda Swan is taken down, and Overture running out of room.
Oh yeah, definitely got to feel a little claustrophobic at the moment. PK will step down to bottom red. Some guy with one. The headshot connects against Jimmy Talon. Again, watch Sirius. I just have certain feelings about him. PK will cross the angle. He's not even bothering to check for Perplexed. And so now Sirius, with all of his teammates dropping by him, again faces the same situation. The 1 versus 3 under the pump. He's getting pinged out by some source of intel. Has to be a default cam at this point. Jaeger at the bottom of the stairs. Perplexed is running up red. And Emergence again are able to put together the plays, and they step now onto match point for the very first time.
Yeah. Oh wow. What a round there for Emergence, and just again, it felt like a little bit of self-inflicted wounds there from Overture, and the way that they played that out, it was just very. It was not very particularly pacey from them, and it gave Emergence a lot of time to react. I mean, specifically, you think of the Pulse just able to rotate down floor after floor after floor, and Perplexed until they finally managed to secure a kill, and by the time that they secured a kill, it was a very critical one indeed to get in there at the end. So, wow, what a round, and what an interesting game this has been. We'll see now if Overture can kind of kick this into overdrive here. They know how important it is for them to secure this win. They want to be in the playoffs, I'm sure. As we go to kitchen service, kitchen cooking, Ying was being deployed here. The Echo, I think, obviously is something that we would expect, but the Ying coming out, interesting choice. I will be quite honest with you here, Stick. I'm a little perplexed about what their plan is going to be here. I don't know if that Ying, to me, the Ying would, sing that they're going to come in through the bakery, right? Like that you're going to go hard, just sort of rush in, but they don't really have anything to deal with the bakery wall. So maybe they're looking at kind of a vertical take instead.
Yeah, it's hard to say what the Ying might spell for round number 14, perhaps. The one thing I would maybe think about would be... I feel like it's a bit of a stretch to say this could be like a bunker push, and maybe you just have the Candelas to blind out any of those sight lines that you'd often see to stop such a push. Emergence would need control of the top floor. We'll see what they do end up deciding on. Where's their position so far? You can see everybody going up to the rooftop. This looks like a top-down sort of push where they're going to try to eventually settle on this second floor control. Whether they like it or not, there will be Overture defenders here to try to stop them. And the real problem here is the time. You have to be quick about this. The Ying will be helpful to maybe soften things up when you go for the execute, but Overture, especially PK, we have seen PK take so many fights and he just refuses to give you the control. That can sometimes be a bad thing. Sometimes it gets you killed if you try to hold the position when you don't have a mandate to do so, but other times it can just confuse teams. You never would expect such a play. Sirius with a few chance bits of damage on the Warrior, but nothing conclusive as of yet.
Yeah, the Ying, like you were saying, the Ying very much comes into serious value in the actual execution stage, not so much here in this kind of floor-by-floor clear. So they're going to have to be a bit careful about how they do this, and you can just see these defender bodies buried in here, but a very good early kill by Perplexed onto PK, who just got caught. Even PK and Perplexed seem a bit confused about what exactly happened there in that gunfight, but it was absolutely critical to take that fragger off the board. 1 minute 20 seconds left, and that should give them plenty of space to work with here on the side of Emergence. I think that Overture has to a certain extent circled their wagons just a little bit and prepared for the end here. Sirius tucked up in coat check, and I don't think they know that Sirius is here.
The Candela is going to try to eviscerate this position, but after a bit of a dry spell from Sirius, he collects a kill that will matter so importantly in the future of this round. But man disadvantage is still as such. Sirius will start to creep up the stairs. Look at the Sophie. I think they've read this already, and Sirius gets put down before he can put together a second. Some guy and Naps, if they want to continue fighting to guarantee that playoff spot, they're going to have to do it now. Toxic Babe sent upwards. 30 seconds. Emergence. All they need to realize is the time. Your most valuable friend is a defender. One guy will chase into Freezer. He's trying to make a bit of a trick play here. And not often do you check this a second time. Habana, diffuser down. The time begins to tick lower and lower, and you begin to think this could be an Overture round in the making. Naps is on the yokai, but look at it. They're going to try to take the fight with one player. Sophia goes down Sledge, but Perplexed is able to trade it back, and that means Emergence are headed to the postseason. What a way to end this Week 6 matchup.
What a savage end right there coming in from Emergence, sacrificing 2 players to secure that kill. Beautiful. And yeah, Warrior notes it in the chat. They've broken their unpleasantness there. They've managed to get a win on stream. Oh, I love that. I love that ending. Actually, that was some grim calculation that was made there by Emergence to throw those bodies in. And I love the read as well to come across the backside of the bakery and just shut it down. They didn't even really think about the plant there. They just went directly in, as it were. I like that a lot. That was a good ending. A very interesting matchup right there, and one that I'm sure Overture is a little unhappy slipped through their hands. But I mean, Emergence played quite well. I thought the tenor of the match for them was a very positive one.
Yeah, it certainly was, and this will be a huge game. Always nice to, end that unfortunate curse of losing games on stream. It happens sometimes. You just get into a bit of a funk, and I think that is certainly what happened for Overture today. They sort of let the game get kind of out of hand to a certain degree, and while you always have to say, oh, there's the caveat if you've got a substitute in, and you can't discount PK for his performance, on the defense, with his spawn peaks, with his positioning, the way that he played, some of the attacks where he was just leading the way, where he would get multi-kills that would make rounds look winnable. Unfortunately, the rest of the team, kind of a somber note for a lot of players for them today. And with that being said, Emergence should now vault up to that 4th position and carry forward with what should be an impossible to revoke playoff ticket. You look down to Overture, what do their chances look like for future games ahead of that number 4, number 5 kind of split? You have Oblivion, who already have 4 wins. I believe from my notes that their season has ended. I'm not sure. There's been some forfeits that we've had kind of late into the season because teams realize that they're not getting into playoffs, so they're like, bye-bye, I'm going now. I'll be off to whatever I'm doing, playing a rank, this and that. Next week's matches, week number 1, we have an important deciding game. JJ and Co., that new team that I talked about, replacing Radiance in that top group. They're playing against Cosmic Wolf. That's another situation just like this one. Win and you're into the playoffs. That game will be huge. That'll be taking place on Monday. On Tuesday, we've got Overture Gaming versus Mystic. Now, that's got to be a tough one to look forward to, and to know that if you want to get into playoffs, you have to do this. You have to defeat Mystic, who are in themselves undefeated, haven't lost a single game through the season.
Yeah.
And then on week number 3, we have 303 versus Assault, which is probably going to go the way that I would predict it. I don't think Assault are going to let that one slip. And then finally, our game on Tuesday, I believe, should be Oblivion versus 2 Relax. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But ultimately, a fun game. We don't get to overtime very often here in Unified, and I had a lot of fun, Tristan.
No. Yeah, no, it was a very entertaining match, and I enjoyed watching these two teams play such a close game. I mean, it really was quite close, and some very impressive and exciting individual performances. A couple really cool plays coming out there, some good jump outs, some individually spectacular, kind of weird and wacky rounds. Honestly, probably one of the more entertaining cafes I think I've seen in a long time, which is saying something. So I definitely enjoyed it.
All right, with that being said, that'll conclude tonight's broadcasting for Unified. If you'd like to see more Rainbow Six, of course, week number 7 is just ahead after the weekend, starting back up on Monday, and that'll be the end of the regular season with playoffs just over the horizon. I've been Sticula, my partner here, Corbeck, our awesome observer coming in on the day, Max, and as well, our producer, Tango Mango Down. From all of us here on Unified, we'll see you on next Monday.